Thanks for tuning in to Barbershop Sports Talk.
Oh, we're back with the Barbershop Sports Talk, and we have Kenny Sim with us, scouting expert for 247 Sports. Kenny, tell me how you're feeling after the Browns undress the Pittsburgh Steelers, your hated AFC North rival, on national TV Sunday Night Football, NBC. Tell me how you're feeling, Kenny.
Daryl, I'm happy to be back at the barbershop. I am feeling great right now about that. As what you call it, undressing. I mean, that was a complete undressing by the Browns, and there's a lot of things that go into this game, and we'll talk about the nuts and bolts in a minute. But just a couple of things on what that playoff game meant on this undressing. The Cleveland Browns ended a 17-year losing streak in Heinz Field. They lost 17 straight times in Pittsburgh over the years. And there's a lot of coaches and GMs. That last game of the year with the Browns, always in Pittsburgh, there's about 4 or 5 GMs, coaches, and presidents that have been fired in Pittsburgh. They end a 17-year losing streak in Heinz Field. They end a 26-year playoff drought. The last playoff one was 94, 26 years. First road win in the playoffs since 1969. And I think what we saw tonight was a changing of the guard in the AFC North. Where kind of the reign end for the Steelers. They got 18 free agents. They can't run the ball like a traditional Steelers team. Big Ben was all over the place. He looked bad. He looked old. And that's been the case for about the last month with the Steelers. And, I think Big Ben's done. I think the Steelers, they're in a transition phase. And we'll talk about in the offseason for the Steelers. But I think they got to take a look at quarterback. Big Ben's 38 and out of shape. And what the Browns did going into Pittsburgh with no head coach, so they had an interim coach. The coach of the year is out. He's the play caller, so they had Alex Van Pelt, who's the offensive coordinator, hasn't called plays all year. He's calling plays. They're on their 4th left guard. 5 coaches out. They haven't practiced since Friday, so they had one practice, Daryl, over the last week on Friday. And they go into Pittsburgh, and who's the team that hasn't practiced all week? The Browns go after a 21-0 lead, and that game was huge to win a playoff game in Cleveland. But I think long-term, you start looking at that, I think there was a changing of the guard there in the AFC North with the Cleveland Browns taking down the Steelers. Oh, and by the way, Big Ben was 24-2-1 against Cleveland. And that was a big loss tonight there.
Kenny, Big Ben, was that not the most empty 500-yard performance you've ever seen?
Daryl, there's something called empty calories, and that was exactly it. I mean, Big Ben was erratic, and coming into the game, he was the worst quarterback in the NFL at throwing those 20-yard passes downfield with quarterback rating. He was the worst, and he was erratic all night. Even on some of those third down throws around the goal line, I mean, he's airmailing throws or making his receivers go out of their way to catch it. He can't push the ball downfield anymore, and this has been the case for about the last month. He can't throw the ball downfield, so that's one reason why, a comeback was going to be hard to do, because all they got is just dinking and dunking, and, you got to be in shape as a quarterback, and Brady's 43, and Brady's in shape, though. Big Ben is, he's like he's like the uncle that comes out after Thanksgiving in a food coma and starts throwing the ball around the kids. He's throwing passes to James Conner, and he's trying to, shovel pass and push it. And, maybe when he was 25, but he's 38. And he's throwing some bad interceptions. He did that on the first one to MJ Stewart, and he's just he's just really out of shape and immobile and careless with the ball. And that was reason why the Browns won. The number one reason was +4 in the turnover, and Big Ben was 3 of those turnovers. The Browns had 28 points off turnovers, but Big Ben, he looks like a different quarterback than the Hall of Famer earlier on, and he's not aging well like a Breeze or a Brady.
Well, those two guys are really serious about their health. Which is partly why they're playing so well into their 40s. Brady's 43, Breeze is, I think, still 41, and both of those guys are still quality starting level quarterbacks. And Big Ben, the last month of the season has just been awful, like you mentioned. And talk about the Steelers. Is this one of the most fraudulent teams ever that started out 11-0, and then look where they came? Like, look how it went. Like, this team was 11-0 at one point. This team had a better record than Kansas freaking City. And just to see them go out like this in the wild card round, it's embarrassing. It's disgraceful.
Totally fraudulent. They've lost 5 out of 6. But there were some key things that made them a little fraudulent, and why, as a wild card, I wanted the Steelers as opposed to the Bills or Kansas City. One was they lost 5 out of 6 and not playing well. In 4 out of their last 5 games, or in 4 out of their last 6 games, they didn't break the 20-point mark. They cannot run the ball. I mean, it is almost wasting your time throwing the ball, and that was shown tonight. So they ran 16 times for 52 yards. They can't get anything going on the ground, and Big Ben can't throw deep. So their entire offense is 50-plus throws with Big Ben dinking and dunking, and just over time, if you go on those long drives, at some point you're going to get a holding call. Can't throw the ball on 3rd and 15. At some point, as the drive goes on, it's a better chance one of those plays turns into a turnover. And then on defense, down the stretch, yes, I mean, they were the number 3 defense in scoring and passing and total defense, number 1 in DVOA. But the last 5 games, and the Browns did it tonight, the Steelers gave up 4.2 yards on the ground, 145 yards a game. So they're getting gashed down. But I think offensively, I mean, listen, you know me, I am offensively oriented. You got to be able to score 35 points in the playoffs to win, if not 40-some games. And it was just totally inefficient for how the Steelers are going to score, that mark. I mean, they had a really difficult time down the stretch scoring, and they got down tonight. They have a very limited plan on how they're going to come back and win.